Hello and welcome once again. I'll just give you a minute to log in, one or two of you. Lovely. Okay, maybe what you could just give me a hint. You're out there. If you can log into this, just so I can see this. There's fellow travelers on this. So this is Sovereign Earth. Hi, I can see somebody. Sovereign Earth, a couple of you. No names yet, but they'll come. So Sovereign Earth 28. And this one is about the Middleway. Why Middleway? And why is my name Middleway? So here's a chant I want to start with. So Carol, lovely to see you, Carol Matthews from over the valley. John King, and possibly Lynn as well from up in the wilds of Scotland. That's lovely. Tina Weiss from Germany. Lovely. So yeah, and anyone else is out there. Very lovely to have you join me. So here's a chant from up in Scotland, the Western Isles, that I think embodies qualities of the Middle Way. Agos So what I love about that chant, it's got this beautiful balance between the in-breath and the out-breath, between silence and song, and between the mystery and the manifest. So it's you'll see why maybe as we go along, you'll see why I love it so much. So many years ago, and I've worked it out, I think it's about 39 years ago, I was very ill. Well, I was ill enough to be in hospital for a spell, and I had a slip disc, and I was in a lot of pain, and I was laid up for several weeks, and I had time to reflect and sleep and dream, and I dreamt a particularly powerful dream that caused me to adopt this name, Middleway, JJ Middleway. JJ Howell is my name. JJ Middleway is kind of a spiritual name. Where did it come from? You know, I can't remember the detail of the dream, but I know it was so powerful, and it was a reflection of the way to go. I just knew it was the right thing, and I had to do it. I had to do it. What did I have to do? Well, that will come out as well as we go on. Now, over the last couple of days, I have to tell you this because over the last couple of days, a few people have said, oh, what's Sovereign Earth going to be about this week then? And I've said, oh, the Middle Way. And their response has been, everybody unanimously has burst out laughing. Not just laughing, but sustained hearty laughter. And I've joined them. They really laughed their socks off. You, JJ, talking about the Middle Way. Okay, anyone who knows me, and several of you out there do, know that my life has taken me to the extremes, the poles, and sometimes over the edge, the outside limits, the further limits. It's not been a sort of sat in the middle life. But that's what's interesting from those outside poles and those outer limits. I've come to be able to see the middle way much more clearly. It's an interesting paradox, isn't it? To know what to know the middle way, you have to know the not middle way. And of course, I came later, a few years after that. I studied Buddhism a bit, and of course, the middle way it figures in everything with Buddhism, doesn't it? The middle way. It's not such a strange or unique or uncommon pointer in spirituality. But at the time I had the dream, I didn't know that. So it was an affirmation and a lovely surprise. Oh, Buddhism talks about the middle way too. So I knew it was kind of in the right ballpark. Now I'm going to turn to another my trusty visual aid of the Arwen. I might need to just turn this down a minute, just for a bit. So there's the Arwen. Hey, the Druid Arwen. And of course, you're familiar with this, many of you, in various ways. And if you're not familiar with it, Arwen is flowing spirit in the Old Welsh, in the Old English, actually, it was. Anyway, just for the purposes of this tonight, so if we think of this, between the poles, here's the solstices. So the sun travels from one solstice, so let's say summer solstice, through the equinox to the winter solstice and back again. And so here we are, here are the extremes, the edges, the outer limits for the solstices in this, for me at least. And in the middle is the equinox, point of balance. But what's interesting is that point of balance only happens briefly, very briefly, transitory, twice a year. And so in that time, the sun rises in the east, and in that time, right round the globe, as far as I'm aware, everybody has equal day and equal night, just for that equinox. It's a point of balance, and it's very transitory. So I'll just put this back. Welcome back. So my point with that Arwen balance equinox, I think it reflects life. I think balance and the middle way is something maybe to keep in mind, but we're very rarely in that place. Although hopefully somewhere along our journeys we are. So we're often exploring the outer limits, going towards or coming back. Another song. Why have you come to earth? Do you remember? Why have you taken birth? Why have you come to love? To serve and remember, to love, to serve and remember, to love, to serve and remember, to love, to serve and remember. That would be lovely to sing that for sort of several minutes together, and we do that in other places, Enchanting the Void, either in the Roundhouse or sometimes on here occasionally. Just to drink. Cheers, water. So a few clues to the wisdom of the middle way. Now, down in East Sussex, some of you may be watching from down there, in the land of the Anderida, and in fact, my dear friends Kerry and Dave, down the Bard, as some of you will know, they run a seasonal ceremony on the hill at Wilmington. Now, the feature that distinguishes Wilmington is a chalk figure cut into the hillside, a giant chalk figure called the Old Man of Wilmington. And visual aids again. So the Old Man of Wilmington, there are poles, there's white chalk poles in either hand, arms outstretched. So you just imagine, so these poles are outstretched, but there's two poles. And it's an ancient chalk figure. And so the speculation is, what on earth are the poles about? Maybe they needed walking poles like me. maybe that's what it's about. But and some people speculate that it's to do with surveying, so a surveying tool across the landscape. Could be. My hunch, just my sense, is that it's to do with balance. So that it's all to do with the middle way, ancient wisdom, indigenous wisdom of these lands. And I wrote a poem all those years ago, Old Man of Wilmington, with poles in either hand. For many generations you have puzzled all this land, but your answer is quite simple and plain for all to see. Walk the middle pathway and seek out harmony. So who knows, but that's my hunch. Another clue, and this has served me well through life, this aphorism, this saying. Love says I'm everything. Love says I'm everything. Wisdom says I'm nothing. Between those two, my life flows freely. Love says I'm everything. Wisdom says I'm nothing. Between those two, my life flows freely. I found that such a powerful and aid to awareness, or help, or trying to keep awareness. I mean, I was blessed. Love says I'm everything. I understood that from very early on, from birth. I think love, everything was in my experience, in my orbit. The wisdom says I'm nothing bit, I had to spend a good chunk of my life learning, still am, but to balance up the love says I'm everything. And between those two, my life flows freely. Well, yeah, when I can hold those in equal measure, it does. So between those two extremes, there's great truth and wisdom, peace, harmony, well-being. So what's it all geared to? Here's another song. Oh Lord, make me a hollow reed. 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 Oh Lord, make me a hollow reed, from which the pith of self hath been blown, from which the pith of self hath been blown, so that I may become a clear channel, so that I may become a clear channel through which your love may flow to others. Your love may flow to others. So, some examples of the middle way. So it's just reminders of why it's such a powerful path. Story of Daedalus and Icarus. So Daedalus was the father, Icarus the son. They had to escape the labyrinth, and they created, this is a very abbreviated version, created wings which they made from wax to fly and escape. And they're flying over the sea, and Daedalus says to his son, what does he say? He says, fly the middle course between the spray of the sea and the heat of the sun. And Icarus, of course, like a lot of children or youngsters, he ignores that advice, and he flies too close to the sun. The wax melts, the wings fold, and he falls to his death. And there's coded wisdom in myth, isn't there, for flying too high, too close to the sun. Many of us have done that. I can own that. It's happened to me. And we fall, and we learn with a bit of luck if we don't die. So, yeah, everything of virtue, everything of worth in life, every moral sort of compass code stems from finding a midpoint between extremes, balancing those extremes. So it's kind of like a golden mean, I think. Anyway, take courage. Okay, courage as an example. So courage is a wonderful asset and virtue. But if we take it to excess, it's completely reckless. It's recklessness, risk, high risk, possibly death. Taken to its other extreme, it's cowardice. So here's the poles and the midpoint. Generosity is another good one. So you get generosity on the one hand, it's kind of like wanton extravagance. You give everything away, and it's ridiculous. And on the other hand, it's miserliness or stinginess. And but in the middle, healthy sort of generosity. So another one is healthy action in the world, and that sits between the poles of laziness and burnout. So I think it's fascinating working with the archetypes in the men's work I do, but taking the sovereign leader of a country, of a nation. A healthy sovereign is benevolent in the sense they're active, but they have an awareness of all of the people, or work for the good of their people, work for the good of the land. But if you go to the poles of unhealthy sovereignty, you've got the abdicator who can't care less and dips out, and you've got the tyrant who sort of causes mayhem because they're doing everything for their own ends. And the world is full of tyrant kings at the moment, and we're paying a heck of a price. And the earth is calling out, and that sovereign earth is all about these tools, or what's of worth in the world, what can serve Mother Earth. And I think aiming at least to try and balance and bring into harmony these different virtues and apply them in the world will serve the earth. Aristotle, he spoke about the Spartans, the Greek people, who they were a war tribe, and he said that he reckoned why they failed, or why they would fail. He said they trained the men and not the women. They trained for war and not for peace. They're completely out of balance. So I'm going to invite us just briefly to go into our global grove, as I've come to term it. So just closing our eyes. Just deep breaths, sinking into the body. And really taking our mind, in our mind's eye, entering a grove of trees, a sacred grove, a large grove of beautiful trees. And we can sense them, smell them, see them, touch them. And each of us, whoever's in this circle right now, we're all in this grove together. And I'd like you in your mind's eye to walk to the center of the grove, to find the center point. And then to turn to your left, and for the sake of this, and walk to the edge. Let's call this, well, this is one pole. This is a pole. You can decide which one, or what pole this is. Might be north, might be south, but it's a pole, it's an extreme, it's an edge. And we walk together to the edge of the circle, to the edge of the grove, at one edge. And we just note what that feels like. And we turn around and we walk back to the center, not pausing in the center, through the center, to the other extreme, the other pole, the other edge of the circle. Again, just pausing, taking note, and turning and walking back to the center of the grove. Standing now in the center I'll suggest, but my sense as I join you, I'm with you in this. I have a better feel for what's your feel for the centre, having been to the poles, as opposed to when you first stood there. Yeah. So my invitation is that to better understand the centre, we need to know the poles, the edges. So giving thanks and walking to the edge where you came in, the grove, the place where you first entered this circle. You walk back, you give thanks. And just before you leave that grove and before you open your eyes, just take that, listen to these words by Hafiz from 800 years ago. All the hemispheres in existence lie beside an equator in your heart. All the hemispheres in existence lie beside an equator in your heart. So I invite you to bring yourself in your mind's eye back into the room where you are watching or present for this, and to open your eyes gently and just bring yourself fully back into this space. Now, there's many examples of the middle way, and a classic is, of course, the Buddha. So as Siddhartha, when he left his palace, he was born a king, and Siddhartha leaves his palace of excess and everything he wanted, and he relinquishes that and goes on his travels, all sorts of experiences, but he goes to the other extreme, asceticism it's called, but basically that's giving up on everything. He gave up on all worldly goods. So he went to the other extreme, and he very nearly died. I think he was saved by a woman milking her cows as he floated down the river. He was so weak. But then finally he gains the insight. He called it enlightenment. I think it's the insight. He gained the insight of what it is to find contentment, balance, peace, and equanimity as he's leaning against the tree, body tree. And the spirit of Mother Earth, the spirit of the Gaia of the Great Mother comes to him and shows him what's been there all the time, but which he wasn't aware of. So that's the middle way for Buddhist point of view. In Greece, above the temple of Delphi, nothing to excess is engraved, nothing to excess. Confucius in ancient China, he equated deficiency and excess as both being unhealthy and to seek the mean between the two. So again, this comes through again and again and again. So I just want to share something that you could call it an insight, or you could call it stupidity. I mean, it's to do with the word guru. So typically the word, so I've got a personal interpretation of the word guru. I mean, typically it's a Sanskrit word, and the first syllable gu is dark, and the second syllable ru is light. So it's reckoned traditionally to mean one who dispels darkness and leads another towards the light. So the dispelling of this from dark to light. I prefer to think of it as an equal balance, gu and ru, light and dark, honoring both. So the characteristics and the benefits of both of those. Who knows? But that's just a personal take on the guru. And we've got there's the Vesica Pisces at Glastonbury, where the two circles interconnect, and that middle part you can see. I'm not sure you can see. Oh. So that little bit where they overlap is called the mandorla, that almond shape in the middle. Place of balance, the union of opposites. And I'm suggesting, and I know it in my heart, and I think we all do, that sovereign Earth, the Earth needs all of our love, all of our qualities, all of our virtues. That's the call in our time. So just to move towards the end of this broadcast, there's a lovely few lines. It's a longer poem. Some of you know Ema, dear friend Ema, but I knew I was privileged to know her husband before he died, Howard Campbell. And he wrote this. It was based on teachings of Aristotle, I think. Learn the difficult craft of choice. Make your way of being a work of art, not too much nor too little of any one tint. A finished work of art needs nothing taken away, nothing added. Choose to do what brings you towards the virtue of your being. Do not seek what you cannot know. Do not dwell on what cannot change. Seek to be not too little, nor too much. And when I read that earlier today, it reminded me of the Serenity Prayer. Great Spirit, Goddess, God, whatever you want to call it, Great Spirit, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And finally, a poem that I wrote as a young man: walk the middle pathway, but don't compromise your soul. Hold yourself in balance, and you'll achieve your goal. So I'm offering all those thoughts and songs in honor of the Middle Way and in praise of that teaching, that wisdom thread that runs through various traditions, not least Druidry and indigenous wisdoms, that balance, honoring, finding the extremes in order to know the middle. I hope there's been a sort of a glimmer or two of something in there for you, and I send out love and blessings. Well, have a beautiful week, and see you again, I hope. Bye.